It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Did you watch any of the Pope live?
No, I didn't catch it live. I mean, I was catching all the updates from every media group. Everybody had live updates.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
I was going back and forth when it was all going on, and really interesting. I mean, the excitement. It was like, and by the way, this is not a demeaning comment, but it was like a massive sports event with the excitement, the excitement behind it.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, whether you're Catholic or not, I mean, I already mentioned earlier. Did I mention it on the air or off the air to you about Mark Kelly? Senator Mark Kelly.
Yeah,
I'm a Catholic. You're the biggest pro-abortionist that there is out there. I mean, it's like, I shake my head. I have no idea why people embrace and are proud of a religion that they disagree with one of the most major tenets of that religion, and they brag about it. I'm like, I don't get the mindset behind that unless it's virtue signaling.
Right.
Okay. I may be for killing babies, but I support the church that doesn't.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But, and you also support the radical transgender movement that they don't. We probably could go on with a ton of things that you do not support, but it was what I thought was interesting was, and I'm talking about an excitement level, the number of young people that were there. Mm-hmm. You see scanning. You just don't see something like that, and it's not just about what the Catholic Church has gone through over the last decade or so, and we've talked really the last 20 years with all the priest scandals, which has really torn apart the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
It's what the Catholic Church stands for so many people, which is they are absolute on many, many issues of morality.
Yeah.
And when you see such excitement for the morality of the beliefs of the Catholic Church and an excitement about that, that's something you don't see a lot anywhere else in anything else that's reported, and I thought that's wonderful.
Yeah,
because I think it expands.
Very encouraging.
It expands out more than to just people that are Catholic.
Yeah,
that go, wow, this is whoa.
Right now, the new Pope Leo XIV, leading his first Mass after being chosen as the next leader of the Catholic Church. That's happening as we speak.
And it was interesting to see how political it got, very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, sure. Yeah, you and I are kind of used to that, but it went straight there. But it is interesting because for us older folks, you wonder about the next generation and where beliefs are going to be. Of course, we're focused on what happens here domestically. But you wonder globally, what do people believe? What will the next generation believe? What will they believe in? How religious will they be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, there have been some greatly discouraging things over the years. But, I don't know. Because you'll see this, a new poll says young people don't. You and I deal with polls all the time that are flat out wrong. Because it starts with the methodology and the questions that they're going to ask and everything else and qualifying the respondents and all of that. I'd like to see, I don't know, basically an accounting of all the different religions. What has the participation rate been, basically? Is it going up? I'm very curious to see if young people, anecdotally, I've talked to some young people. These are 18 to 20-year-old individuals that have talked about it recently that I was pleasantly surprised that their faith is strong. And I guess as we age, we always wonder about what the next generation is going to do, what their morals are, what their beliefs are. And it's always interesting to see, when something like this happens, there's a euphoria that was in place yesterday. For those of us that aren't Catholic, we witnessed that.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting for me, being a Catholic and going to Catholic school when I was young,
right.
I mean, everything was, when I was growing up, everything was around the church.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
I was my Cub Scout troop, my Boy Scout troop, all came from the church that I was in. All the basketball I played, I learned to play basketball at the church. That's where a sport that I played up until I was 62.
Right.
And then the ankles. I mean, they had you. I'm telling you, you want to bring somebody in, a young man, to consider Catholicism might not be this bad. Have glass backboards and a beautiful basketball court.
Yeah.
In the late 1960s, at your church, and then downstairs is a bowling alley and a bar that your uncle is the manager of.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny because whenever I mention the whole bowling alley thing, and I think they took that out sometime in the late 70s, maybe early when bingo got hot.
Yeah.
When they started doing bingo, but it was great, and Friday night you go, except for the smoking because everybody smoked back then.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget one of the priests saying, because somebody was asking, is it appropriate? He said, if you're going to go out on a Friday night and have a couple of beers and bowl and, have social activities, why not at the church?
Yeah.
Because I never saw anybody drunk.
Right.
Ever. It wasn't like people were walking around. They wouldn't allow that to happen. But it was like a community. It really, really was. And you weren't forced to be in the community in any way.
Right.
Nobody said you had to. Everything was volunteer to do it. But what I've always found to be fascinating, because we cover, if the Catholic Church or the Pope says something, we cover it as an issue. It becomes a news issue. Where does the Catholic Church stand on this? Where does the Catholic Church stand on that? When we had the last Pope, when we had Francis talking about when they get into climate change and when they get into talking about creating jobs, and they seem to be naive at times on capitalism, on those subjects. People have asked me, they said, well, as a Catholic, what happens when you go to church? I go, none of that.
Right.
99.9999% of the time when you are around, when I was around any Catholic church that I've been a parishioner of, 99.99% of the sermons is about you as an individual, what you have to do to be a better life, to have a better life and serve God, and have a better life through serving God.
Yeah.
And everything, the sacrifice, for your fellow man, everything. Nothing ever can I remember had anything to do with any major issue of economics, immigration, or anything. And that, to me, is, I've always found that a very interesting concept, that the public outside of the Catholic Church views it a lot of times in that type of worldview, where if you're a member, that's not what you experience.
Yeah, well, especially today.
Yeah. Oh, especially today with social media and everything else. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because immediately, I mean, I found out just on social media in a couple of minutes. Oh, okay. So Pope Leo the 14th is he's a Republican and voted in this primary, this primary, this primary, this primary. And then is he a never Trumper? That question,
Right,
that came out. Oh, gender, the whole gender stuff, the radical transgender movement. He's against that. Has criticized Trump on immigration. I mean, you knew everything about it. But when Catholics go to church this Sunday, that's not going to be the discussion at all.
Right.
None of it. It's about you and your individual relationship with Christ. That's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find that I don't consider it a negative or a positive. It's just the way that it is. And it's really strange because I think from the outside, if you haven't been, part of the Catholic Church, you don't know that. It's not like they're in there saying, and this week you need to get out and vote against Trump. Never happens.
Right.
Well, at least I'm not saying it never happens. It got quite radical in the late 60s. I remember my father, with some of the radical priests of the 1960s. Mm-hmm. But it was like the other day when we were talking about, Trump and, the AI thing of him, being the Pope. And I think you had some bishops in New York or whatever say that, well, we don't think he should have done that, and it's sacrilegious. And I just went, no, it was humorous.
Right.
And why? Because every priest that I respected and came to admire in my life had the biggest sense of humors you could possibly ever imagine that outdid the majority of any other vocation or employment that you might be involved in.
Yeah,
they were hilarious,
right?
Self-deprecating, you name it. And a lot of that experience was from the 60s and 70s when I was young. I've always talked about the thing when I was playing basketball. I had to be maybe 19, 20. It was the adult league in the church, St. John the Baptist, Kenmore, New York, and. We're playing basketball, we're practicing, and I miss a layup. And whenever I did something really bad, I was known to maybe curse a little bit.
Oh.
And so I went in, stole the ball, went in to put in the layup, missed the layup. As I'm coming around, I'm like, why, son of a, and I look out of the corner of my eye and I didn't even see him come in. One of the priests is sitting right there watching us practice. Mm-hmm. And I went, son of a gun, mother of all, whatever. I mean, I'm stumbling through the whole thing as I'm going. And my buddy, guy I played basketball with and still communicate with him today, and he remembers it. He remembers that moment. My old buddy, John Slayton, was on the floor. on the floor, fell down. He was laughing so hard. I mean, and I look over at the priest. I can't remember that priest's name. Mm-hmm. He was dying laughing. Absolutely knew what was going on, dying laughing.
Right.
He said, and then I remember going over, he goes, you almost got caught, didn't you? I go, yeah. And everybody just made fun of me. But the priest that I knew, and I always talked about Father Gill, you think about this, it sounds dirty today. Father Gill would bring all young teenage boys to his rural farm. The fact that sounds suspicious and dirty today, and going through what we went with him and what he taught us, whether it was repairing farm equipment, learning how to drive tractors and a bunch of different things, the fact that in itself today in 2025 makes people suspicious, and they think there must be some perversion involved in that, infuriates me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because of the evil priests, those that went in and completely perverted what that was about.
Right.
Still today, I think about that. I become infuriated because they took good people like him And to me, anybody who wishes to do that, that's gone now. It's completely gone. It's like my buddy who used to coach Little League.
Yeah.
And before he was married. Now he's married, he's got kids, everything else. Biggest football fan in the world. Nicest guy you ever want to meet. Salt of the earth. He had to stop. You know, he was the kind of coach that the kids that score a touchdown come up and they jump on him and wrap their arms around him, whatever.
Yeah.
He had to stop doing it.
Yep. Boundaries.
He said, I had to stop doing it. And he was infuriated by it because it was innocence. It was completely innocent. And that type of affection, which is pure and great and full of love, was destroyed.
Yep.
From people that decided to become a coach or do whatever for their own perverted purposes. Still infuriates me today. Still does.
And for a church, the people lose faith in the church leadership.
Oh, and for the church leadership to hide so many of these priests.
Exactly.
The anger I still have on that today. That got me in trouble when I was a radio broadcaster when it was happening 20 years ago. Especially I know a bunch of people that were in town from the parish that I was at when they had a bishop's meeting here, and I blasted. A guy I know, good friend of mine, was furious at me. Said, sorry, you call out evil wherever it is.
Yep.
Doesn't change how I view about the teachings of the Catholic Church. It does change how I feel about the people that perverted what the Catholic Church stands for.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howe's Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Long discussed, never agreed upon. Until Thursday.
It's just been a deal that we thought, very complicated. It became very simple. It's opening up the country that we really didn't have the kind of access to that I would have thought. I was surprised. I think it's going to be something very special for UK and special for the United States.
President Donald Trump at the White House announcing the U.S.-United Kingdom trade agreement. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick explained details of the new trade deal, including how agriculture is expected to benefit.
We've opened up new market access. Ethanol, beef, machinery, all the agricultural products. They've agreed to open their markets, and that will add $5 billion of opportunity to American exporters.
Also in attendance, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, echoing the importance of the deal to the U.S. farm sector. She visits the U.K. starting this weekend, in part to discuss trade matters. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, the president of Columbia University speaks out on the chaos that happened there. We was going on during, it was actually happened before our show last night, and there were arrests and everything else. She speaks out. I did not know that the new interim president of Columbia was Claire Shipman.
Yeah.
The former
journalist.
Yeah.
Good Morning America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea. None.
Yeah.
And you told me who she's married to.
She's married to Jay Carney.
Yeah. Wow.
He's now working globally for Airbnb. True story.
From White House press secretary to...
From the White House to your house. Jay Carney. I mean...
I like that.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Why not?
That's hilarious. We'll have what she said coming up.
All right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. All right, we had talked on last night's show about the chaos at Columbia University the other day, the pro-Hamas, the pro-terrorist protesters taking over a section of the library there, cops getting involved and arresting people. There was a response, as you know, the president looking at Columbia University already and saying, you're losing some funding. A new acting president spoke last night on what happened, and the new acting president is Claire Shipman. Yes, the former White House reporter.
Mm-hmm.
Claire Shipman is.
ABC.
Yeah. And let's see what she had to say, what type of tone, because what's going on there right now and what will be going on there is a result of what the president is doing.
Yeah.
To stomp out anti-Semitism at campuses and saying, you're not going to get federal money. You're outright racist. You're not going to get it. If you're not abiding by U.S. civil rights law, your money's gone. Here's her response, though, not to that, but to the takeover of that one section of the library.
Earlier today, a group of protesters occupied one of the main reading rooms in Butler Library, refusing to leave, and another group breached the front door, causing substantial chaos. All of this as the bulk of our students are working hard to prepare for exams. These actions not only represented a violation of university policies, but they also posed a serious risk to our students and campus safety. We had no choice but to ask for the assistance of the NYPD, and I'm grateful for their help and professionalism, as well as that of our public safety team. Let me be clear. What happened today, what I witnessed, was utterly unacceptable. I spent the late afternoon and evening at Butler Library as events were unfolding to understand the situation on the ground and to be able to make the best decisions possible. I arrived to see one of our public safety officers wheeled out on a gurney and another getting bandaged. As I left hours later, I walked through the reading room, one of the many jewels of Butler Library, and I saw it defaced and damaged in disturbing ways and with disturbing slogans. Violence and vandalism, hijacking a library, none of that has any place on our campus. These aren't Columbia's values. Let me be clear. Columbia unequivocally rejects anti-Semitism and all other forms of harassment and discrimination. And we certainly reject a group of students, and we don't know yet whether there were outsiders involved, closing down a library in the middle of the week before finals, forcing 900 students out of their study spaces, many leaving belongings behind. Our commitment to a safe, inclusive, and respectful campus community is unshakable, and we will continue to act decisively to uphold these values. Let me also make clear, our administration spent substantial time working to diffuse the situation in multiple ways through public safety and delegate visits to the students, scenes I witnessed firsthand. The students were told they simply needed to identify themselves and then leave, but most refused. I worked with professors who generously came to have the same conversations. I'm enormously grateful for the many people we have in our community, our public safety officers, our faculty, our staff, and my team who work so hard to make Columbia what we know it can be and should be for our community. I also made sure to be present when the police arrived. I wanted to see for myself how the operation would unfold, and I'm grateful that it was orderly, professional, and extremely limited, with a focus on the students who refused to leave the reading room. I am particularly heartbroken and incensed that this disruption occurred when our students are intensely focused on critical academic work. At a moment when our community deserves calm, the opportunity to study, reflect, complete the academic year successfully, these actions created unnecessary stress and danger. I've seen how much our community wants to take back our narrative, do what they came to Columbia to do, learn, thrive, grow, not take over a library. Moreover, I'm deeply disturbed at the idea that at a moment when our international community feels particularly vulnerable, a small group of students would choose to make our institution a target. We at Columbia value freedom of speech, robust debate, and peaceful protest. Today's disruption of Butler Library was not that. We must and we will come together as a community to consider what civil disobedience actually is, what it means. We need to recognize that when rules are violated, when a community is disrupted for the sake of a few, that is a considered choice and one with real consequences. There's a line between legitimate protest and actions that endanger others and disrupt the fundamental work of the university.
Okay, we all know that. Did you notice the shot of Trump? The shot of Trump was, we already have a foreign contingent that's very nervous, and these people coming in and doing this riot, taking over and defacing, committing acts of vandalism, brings you, what she's saying is brings the attention of the federal government on us again.
Well, I think the statement itself is basically an effort to hedge. You need to get out there and make a statement. Look, we do not support anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
This is the whole thing from the beginning. Sounds like.
Well, no, most of it was what she had to do. I'm reading this from Axios.
Mm-hmm.
From here it is, Columbia University, when she got appointed. Columbia University has appointed Claire Shipman, a co-chair of its board of trustees, as acting president of the institution, targeted by the Trump administration with major federal funding cuts. President Trump's administration pulled some $400 million in federal grants and contracts from the school over allegations of anti-Semitism during pro-Palestinian protest on campus. Columbia reached an agreement last month with some of the White House demands in negotiations over federal funding.
Yeah.
It expelled some students involved in a building takeover, and in other cases issued multi-year suspensions or temporarily revoked degrees. So that was from, was it when she was put in? Let me just see the date on that. March 29th.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they have to, they have to be proactive in, letting everybody know, hey, we're not going to allow this to happen. My question is, what would be happening if not for the pressure from this administration?
Yeah.
What would that have been like?
You're absolutely right.
How long do you let it go?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Look, there was talk about campuses knowing that they couldn't let these things grow and get out of control to where the protesters are occupying an entire campus and everything else. But they're doing vandalism here in this library, as she described it. They're destroying property. They're doing things that are unlawful. And without the pressure from Trump, how far would that have gone?
Happened last night at Brooklyn College. Chaos and wild brawls broke out at Brooklyn College on Thursday evening after pro-Hamas activists tried setting up an encampment on the college grounds. I'm looking here in the background. I'm looking at some of the actual right. It's pretty physical.
Yeah.
Going back and forth.
Yeah.
They tried setting up an encampment on college grounds. New York Police Department officers were dispatched to Brooklyn College after the so-called, quote, agitators refused to take down their tents. Videos show activists, many of whom were yelling and swearing as police officers attempted to get the unruly crowd under control. So, and I was just looking at the video, and it's quite physical. I mean, there's pushing and shoving and just have some quotes of some people. Another clip shows police officers restraining protesters on the ground as demonstrators scream and attempt to intervene. One woman screaming the police are out of control. Brooklyn College told Fox News that the protesters erected tents on the Brooklyn College quad in violation of college policy. After multiple warnings to take the tents down and disperse, members of the College Public Safety and the NYPD removed the tents and dispersed the crowd.
Well, again, I think in part to answer my question about how far do they let it go without Trump getting involved in applying pressure on these universities and threatening to withhold money, public money. Again, you have to look at the scenario where they could take over the entire campus, right? And then they're just going to sit there, and then it takes forever. Now you got to bring in the police in riot gear in large numbers with lots of equipment, basically, to get them out. But you nip it in the bud before it gets to be too escalated. I just don't think you get by. I don't think they want that anymore because of the pressure from Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they want to be in the news anymore because they know Trump is watching. They know what's on the line now.
Well,
they also know too what the public pressure has been. You want to send your kids to any of these universities?
That's where I was going. As you know, the number of applicants for all these prestigious universities has gone down.
Yep.
If they're losing money and losing tuition, why do they exist?
Right.
And I think Claire Shipman putting out that video, you haven't seen that done by a lot of the college presidents. That's the first one. In fact, that's the first one I've seen like that.
Right.
And so she's got in there, and the board of directors are saying we have to go in a different direction.
Right. Right.
But I was just mentioning where she said, we have a big foreign contingent that is scared. Well, scared of what?
Right.
Oh, scared of the attention that you're going to bring on to them
right.
if they're here illegally.
Right.
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, but the fact is she made it clear that you can't riot.
Yeah. Right.
You can't. And that's the one thing. But I think they want it out on social media so the White House can look at it and go, oh, look at Columbia last night.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right, they're getting there.
Right. Well, and again, I think follow the money again with the sentiment changing. Not only the parents, but the students that might choose those schools. I just want to go somewhere and get my degree. I don't want to be a part of that. And I don't know if I want to have a degree from that school if it's going to be branded as a radical center point. I don't want to take that degree to employers when I'm done.
When you see, we looked at the survey that said employers are not hiring people that put their pronouns on their resume.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see that if they're not going to hire you for that,
right.
If they see Harvard, will they question, not your politics,
right,
but whether you are an employee that they can work with?
Well, because the radical behavior, the takeover mentality, right? If you believe there is a risk of that, well, it's just like building a team. You need your locker room to be solid.
Yeah.
And if you're going to hire somebody on, you need to know there's not going to be that kind of disruption in your workplace locker room.
Which started out a few years ago. I mean, we saw it a couple of weeks ago, but it started out the Kaepernick situation.
Right.
Do you wish to hire a Kaepernick?
Right.
866-90-RED-I.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, I'll be taking a quick nap and then heading to the airport to go see Dad. He's in the hospital, but he's okay. He's
Give him our best.
I shall. I will. And along the way, I'll be really actively scanning social media. I really want to see, because this is really the first time that I can remember.
Yeah.
Maybe since when I first became a talk show host, read my lips.
Mm-hmm.
that a Republican president has told the Congress, I want you to raise taxes on the rich.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see what the response from Republicans are.
Right.
That's
going to play today. That's going to be out
play
there
today. Yeah, that'll be out there today because that really came out more last night than anything.
Yeah. And by the way, to all the moms out there, happy Mother's Day. Mother's Day this Sunday. So happy Mother's Day. Wow. Yeah.
Time is flying.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's still
I know.
March or something.
It's all one blur now.
I know.
Yeah.
Years are becoming blurs for me.
Just a blur, yeah.
Have a great weekend.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.